don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Say Things, episode 52. It's been a year, Cinderin. 52 weeks equals a year.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, buddy.
For the third time this year, we have our 1 year anniversary.
Take advantage while you can. We're all isolated right now, so might as well make the best of it. We have some patron shout-outs. We have an interesting bunch of topics to discuss this week. It's not going to be a lot of it's not Dota, so we'll see how many views we get. See how many true fans there are, Cinderella.
Spicy.
I believe I did the first half last time.
Yeah.
Take it away.
How about I do all of them in a really weird accent?
Okay. Love it. By the way, this is your audition to be a voice actor on the critically acclaimed custom game
Path of Guardians.
Yes.
No, I don't want to. No, it's too charming.
Please hurry. Thank you.
No, I'll just go through them quickly. All right. _man. Ben Broomhead. That's a really weird accent, right? Ben Broomhead. Ben Jackson. Chosnik Pizda. DG. Dop. Dyslexic Lawyer. Thane. Fred the Pleb. Not Fred. Freshly Seasoned. Oh, he renamed. Why no gold balls, too?
I don't know why he got rid of it. I'm really sad.
Did he get angry messages? That's insensitive to goats. There's nothing you can do in 2020 anymore. You always offend somebody. Gavrizimo, GG Gamer 74, Anonymous, Nivnev, Novi Panda, Poop Feast 420, who was apparently, like we talked about last week, we thought it was I just Googled it, right? And it was the son of somebody. Apparently, it's also a guy in the StarCraft 2 scene, I think. That was what somebody said.
There was a meme. I actually watched the original clip. I'd never seen it before because I never watched StarCraft 2. I was into Brood War, but it was just a question from somebody named Poop Feast 420 to Artosis while he was interviewing a player, and he just started laughing about it. That's basically it. It's pretty funny.
Okay. Finally, Pitch Black, Ronnie Keel, Say More Things. We shall. Terry Tip, The Coward, Fellowship of the Ping, Wooden Aftertaste, and Zeroic Dota as usual. All right. Yes, thank you guys friends. Once again very much for staying in there for us.
Yes,
like we're staying in there for you.
Okay. Well said, Cinderin.
You wrote down A to Z.
Yeah,
as the next talking point.
I mean, I got a lot of messages, as I'm sure you have, but you've ignored, and I haven't. Messages about A to Z being canceled because apparently a large portion of people that watch that series never watch the podcast, so they don't know. But it's canceled. People that still don't listen to the podcast that I'm wasting my time talking about. But we did say that we kind of wanted to try something else in the future. So what we're going to try, and I think you actually came up with part of this, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. A lot of people brought up we should do a custom game together. What better custom game than Pog, Cinder? And it's you, me, and what was your idea to bring to the table to make it even more interesting?
So I thought if we're playing Path of Guardians and it's 3-on-3, why don't we try to get a new teammate every episode? So kind of like how when we did What the Horse, for example, and we would get a new guest every week, we could do a Path of Guardians game with a new player every week, which could be... The nice thing about the format is that the games are fast. It doesn't matter very much if there's a big skill difference or whatnot. So we can get like anyone we want from inside Dota. If they're, anyone who wants to go, anyone we want, you better fucking join.
They better.
No, but anyone can play with us. So casters, analysts, players, personalities, maybe even people that don't really play much Dota anymore, or people that are even affiliated with other games that just like Dota. I could imagine like one that just came to the top of my mind. I'm not saying we're going to get this, but I was just thinking Simple actually streamed Dota lately. Could be funny to have a CS player on to play a game of Pog with us and talk about Dota and
I'd
CS,
love to play Valorant with him sometime,
whatever it was.
Cinder. Can you hook that up?
I'm sure you would. Yeah. Anyway,
I've seen him stream it.
I think that format is pretty... It's also easier to get people for something like that. And the problem that we had with A to Z in the end was that our queue times were atrocious into really bad games, stomps that were not entertaining to watch, play, anything. This is way more reliable. If we do end up in a stomp in Path of Guardians, a stomp is 10 minutes. and then if we don't like it, we could do another game.
Then uninstall
much,
the mod
much easier.
if you don't like
That's
it.
more interesting.
Yeah, even better.
So I think that could be fun. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we're gonna try to do that.
The only downside of this series, which I'm going to say now so that you're preparing your anus for it, everyone, the point of view will be me. Okay, you will watch me play, but the good thing about Path of Guardians is the camera will probably be on everyone else because we're in the same lane.
Yes.
So
it doesn't really matter that much who the camera's on.
I mean, it matters for my ego because people hate it, but that's okay. I'll let it slide.
But you're the neutral item expert because you play all the long games, so you're going to buy better items than I do when I play.
That's right. There's a bug right now where if you use a certain type of shop view, you can't see all the items. And a lot of pros have not even noticed that that's a thing. So there's some items that they've never even known were in the game. So technically what you said is true. Speaking of Pog, just
set up so wrong and you didn't say anything, Sean.
It looks
I'm
fine
disappointed.
to me. It always looks fine.
All right, I fixed it.
I mean, I can't see anything past your microphone, but that's nothing new.
That's the usual. Man, I need a haircut too. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, what are we doing about haircuts? I don't know what to do either. Mine's getting more out of control than you.
I'm just going to go get one normal one ASAP, I think. I need to book a time today.
Oh,
I wonder how long the queue is. So my girlfriend wanted to get one as soon as possible after it became a possibility, and I think she had to wait 2 weeks to get a time.
Damn.
Something like that.
Yeah, sounds probably about right.
Hopefully it's not 2 weeks for me anymore, because I guess the initial hype of getting your hair cut is over. Kind of,
The hype.
The novelty has worn off.
Yeah, it's not a very common thing anyway, right? Who needs haircuts?
Yeah.
Just want to give a quick update about Pog. We're not going to really talk about it that much, but it's been doing well. The numbers have been good. A lot of streamers have been playing it. We will be rebalancing heroes. We put out a patch earlier, like a day or two ago, which starts the process. There's still more to do, and we have a somewhat big update coming out in the next couple of days, hopefully version 1.1. So I can talk about one feature and let you tell me what you think. I don't remember if I told you about this or not. So we got some requests for this, and it's going to be a mix of what we originally wanted to do. So some people in the pick screen, well, obviously like the band screen, people want to search for the bands to make it easier, so that will be added. But when you pick, people want to see what the enemy heroes are available to them. So we will show them what heroes they roll initially, the first 3 or 4, depending on your battle pass level. But they cannot see what they actually pick. So they can kind of look to the other side and say, okay, he will probably pick this hero, so I'm going to pick this hero. But there's still mind games with that. But the extra twist we're throwing in is any rerolls will be hidden completely. So those are 100% you will not know either side.
That's
what we're going to implement. Yeah, I think so. So hopefully that is well received.
That's good.
Okay, so we play Pushka League. I finished casting last night for me. Today is the last day overall. We talk about the entire tournament as a whole. Obviously, we can't talk about who wins it because as of this recording, we don't know. But it was a lot of fun casting with you, Cinderin. Let's talk about the casting first. Did you enjoy casting with your old buddy Suns fan?
I had a lot of fun, Suns fan. And we got a lot of positive feedback.
I was surprised. I'm not going to lie.
And then,
yes,
as you know, sometimes when I'm casting, not always, to your surprise, probably, but sometimes I do check in with chat to see, know your audience, see what people are saying about the game or about our casting or whatever.
Yeah.
There were a pretty good amount of messages in the chat saying stupid casters. So I think we did great.
That's always a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. More than usual. So I think we probably had too much fun for some people who want really serious coverage and think we were doing.
I got a really angry message about. I won't go into detail. First of all, I don't block people. This is a thing about me, Cinder. I don't give the satisfaction of blocking people on Twitter. I mute them instead. So they never know they're muted, but it's the same thing for me, and they don't get the satisfaction. It's the best of both worlds. I got a really long tweet. It was like 5 tweets in a row about basically raging about my casting, which, I can be polarizing, so I understand. But specifically about when we talked about this, I think we were talking about Sven or something who wasn't in the game, but it was during a pause. They were very angry about that. And I'm like, come on, dude, who gives a shit? It's a pause. Give me a break. But having said that, I think this is, out of any tournament, I know you think that I'm, I don't know, you can describe it yourself. Any tournament I've cast, this is maybe the worst I've ever done. And I think it's really catching up to me. That break I took, that 6-month break, and then not watching a ton of Pro Dota recently, I started to get better towards the end. So I could feel the rust coming off, but easily my worst performance since like originally starting casting like 10 years ago. So just need to get more of it in me. But the schedule was brutal as well. Not to give excuses, but 4 a.m. casting it hurts my soul. But it was a lot of fun, and we can
I
talk
think you
about.
did well, Shannon.
Thank you,
I think you
Cinderin.
did.
I did not, but thank you.
I think you did well.
Thank you, but I did not. Thank you.
Okay.
So let's talk about the actual results. We cast a lot of 2-0s, and I thought it was just us initially, but there's just a lot of 2-0s in general. Does it have something to do? Is it an anomaly? Like just this tournament, or is it just Pro Dota as a whole is kind of meh right now?
I don't know. I think a bit of it is an anomaly, but at the same time, it's also it might just be a tournament where there's a clear tiering of teams. That does happen sometimes. That there's a clear, let's say, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then a lot of the matches are obviously going to be 2-0s when there's teams that are clearly better than others. And I think, like when we look back on a lot of the games that we cast and watched, there's a pretty clear tiering, and there's a pretty good reason why the top 3 are the ones that they are. I think they were quite clearly better than other teams for the most part. Good enough that I would say they win 2-0 the majority of the time. So to give you guys an idea, the current state of the tournament as of this recording, there's 3 teams left, which are Secret, VP Prodigy, and Team Liquid. And all matches in the playoffs have been 2-0 except Liquid's win yesterday against Alliance, where they won 2-1. They've won every other game 2-0, including against Virtus Pro. Twice, actually. They beat them in upper bracket and lower bracket 2-0. And then there's Team Secret that haven't lost a game yet, and VP Prodigy who have only lost to Secret 2-0. So, right, there you go. Like, they've beaten everybody else.
Having
and
said
obviously,
that, Cinderin, we did cast Alliance versus Navi, which is in the lower bracket round 1. And Navi should have won game 2, but they had one of the biggest throws that I've ever... I mean, it's the biggest throw I've ever cast, for sure, where they had a rapier, they had whatever the lead was. It was basically insurmountable. Medusa rapier, doesn't have Aegis anymore, goes in for a bounty rune, and gets demolished, and the game just ends like that. That was crazy.
She lost the rapier, it went to Shadow Fiend, he had Satanic, and then Alliance just push and win. That was absurd to watch, actually, the way that game ended. Not that rapier throws are new or never happen, but the way that it happened over a bounty rune is something I don't think I've seen before. Like, I've seen it where teams try to go high ground and they fail, or they want to get Roche and they get counterplayed at Roche. But for a bounty rune, really? Like, actually, really?
Yeah.
That was weird.
It looked like it was calculated, though. Now that I look back at it,
they thought it was going to work, probably.
Yeah, initially we thought that he just went in like an idiot and died. I mean, that's the first thought that comes to your mind. But both teams were on each respective high grounds. It looked super calculated that they wanted to bait them in. Like, they knew they were there almost, but obviously miscalculated quite a bit. So yeah, as of this recording, Secret is in the finals versus whoever the winner of VP Prodigy and Team Liquid is going to face them. But does anything for the tournament as a whole, like, why so many 2-0s? Is it really just the difference in skill, or is it something to do with the meta, perhaps?
Well, no matter, like, I don't know what it could be about the meta that makes 2-0s, right? If it's that drafts are more one-sided, or draft matters more than ever, or whatever the argument is going to be, well, then one team is just better at drafting than the other every time. Like,
we did see a lot of drafting where people would just play the same hero like every game, and it would never get banned, and there'd never be a different result. Felt very more consistent than it has in any patch that I've noticed, at least.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this kind of thing is bound to happen once in a while. I mean, it is clearly a ton of 2-0s, but I think a lot of them were very likely to happen, and the least likely ones were still not, like, super surprising, I think. When I look through this sheet and I look at all the results in the playoffs, nothing is like, wow, how did that happen? So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I could have seen maybe 2 additional 2-1s, but that's kind of it. I think if we had more 2-1s, that would have been a bit more surprising, actually. Like, looking at the teams that face up against each other. So, it's also online. I don't know if that matters.
I mean,
it's harder to bounce back online because you don't have the same, like, ability to regroup and talk it over in the same way. Like, maybe that matters. I don't know.
I'm sure it matters to a degree. I don't want to get too big of a discussion about this, but it's something that we've talked about for months. But it's becoming more and more obvious how hero kills just don't seem to matter very much. Makes it like I had a lot of fun casting just because it's been a while since I've cast, but I can
Mhm.
definitely see if we had to cast more, like for another month, I could see this getting really stale because it's more predictable. It feels like to me than it's ever been, or at least in recent memory. Um, do you think that's going to be like the biggest change that we're going to see in the upcoming patches where hero kills just because roaming
I
just
think the
isn't a
economy
big
will
thing
still
right
change.
now?
Economy will change for sure. That's just when you make as big changes as we've got recently to other things, there will be something that needs to happen. Like the way let's try to recap what it is they've changed that's big. Reliable gold has been changed completely. They've changed what else with economy did they change? The amount of gold you get for AoE gold for killing people, kill streak gold, which was halved. I feel like there's another thing that I'm forgetting, but there's like multiple things that affect every game that are changed,
And
and
the fountain's still not buffed, for Christ's
you
sake.
rarely nail it the first time you change something like this.
No, that's
Like
definitely true.
one of the biggest challenges with rebalancing Dota is that the pro scene inherently kind of balances the game themselves over months of play. If you don't change the patch at all, it's kind of a self-regulating game in the sense that you have X number of bans, you have Y number of heroes, and let's say a subset of those heroes are considered broken. If there's not enough bans to ban them every game, you start finding solutions, you start finding this and that. And then over time, heroes that might be considered broken at first are not broken anymore because the solutions are found and it's worked out. But then if you don't change any heroes, but you just change the gold, the whole, like, everything gets shaken up again, right? Because now heroes that suffered for gold reasons are suddenly really good or really bad. Um, and like the whole landscape just changes with a snap of a finger almost.
It feels like
So
for
it's
me, I mean, I know I'm a different category than a lot of players, but I have less incentive. Not incentive is not the right word. I don't feel like playing Dota, regular Dota right now. Maybe it's because I'm building this mod and all this stuff, but it feels stale to me. And I think their approach. I'm not saying it's going to be wrong in the end, but the approach that they're having towards balancing this game, I'm trying to remember if they've ever done anything like this before, where they kind of stagger them. They completely like break down the economy, like from ground zero, essentially just bringing
mhm.
it back to like what would be like, let's be real, like a beta stage of a game, if you want to call it that, from a balancing perspective. They've never done anything like this before, and I don't know if is it them experimenting, is it just this new style that they're like towards the
uh,
approach to balancing. Like, it just feels, is it because of the virus that they have the allowance to do something like this where everybody's
I
sitting at
think
home? I don't know. No
it's
tournament,
probably
no
like a
lands.
perfect storm where it's the fact that TI is postponed as well, right? So now, like, if you're balancing the year around peaking at TI, if you will, I feel like that's a little bit too, how to say, a little bit too cynical. It's like, the rest of the year is just experimentation, so TI outshines everything else. Like, I don't really think of it that way. But I think people might think that it's like, oh, TI is moved, so now Valve can fuck around. I don't think they're thinking of it that way. Um, but it might play a factor. It might play a role that TI is postponed because they feel like now they have more time to work things out that might usually be really complicated, and now they have more months to work with. So that could be a thing. Um, I think it's also a bit to do with like just community, like the attitude of the community, maybe feeling like, so before these big patches hit, uh, there were some problems that people would love addressed in the game. It's also about what the pro players think, who they talk to, and Valve themselves. Obviously, there's a plenty of people at Valve that play a lot of Dota and probably have their own opinions about what the game should be. But the overwhelming thing I think I've heard the most in the last months of Dota development that was that a lot of people wanted old Dota back, you know, or wanted it to be more like it used to be. And that might be rose tinted goggles completely. And if you actually got what you wanted, you might hate it.
Hmm.
But a lot of people were nostalgic about a game where we've had like different stages now. We had the rubber band patch, which sucked because it was felt really hard to win. And the patch we have, or felt hard to win even when far ahead you could fuck up one fight and lose. Then we have the current patch where if you're far ahead, it feels like almost, especially in a pro setting, if you're far ahead, it's really difficult to lose. So it's the other way around. And we've had like some sort of healthy medium somewhat between those two. But it's such a difficult balance to make a game where you want the laning stage to matter so that getting ahead should matter, right? But you also ideally don't want games to feel over minute 10, and that's kind of what started happening. And I think that's what people are frustrated about, is that they were like, well, we want the laning stage to matter, but not that much, right? And the higher level of skill you give people, like, the higher the level of skill is, the more deterministic the games are, I think. It's like, if you have a 5k gold lead in a super high ranked game or in a pro game, it is a lot bigger relatively than in a 2k MMR game, because people play better with a lead and make less mistakes.
Well, that's
so
the
higher
thing
the
that
so
a
this
lot of
patch
people
might
don't.
be really good for lower skill games. They're still definitely determined largely by what happens in the first 10 to 15 minutes. But when people watch streams or watch Pro Dota, maybe they get a bit bored because they're like, man, I know what's going to happen now.
Yeah,
And
that's
that,
how I
like,
was kind of feeling for a lot of. I mean,
yeah.
it's really hard. And I think this is lost on a lot of people. It's really hard to balance for both competitive and casual. It's
Yes.
almost impossible. There's some heroes
Extremely
like
difficult.
I've seen just a very small glimpse of this with Pog so far because we've been rebalancing stuff. I promise you, people that have angry tweeted at me or angry messaged me about heroes that are OP equate to about 50 to 60 heroes. It's not possible. If they're all OP, then that's good, right?
Mhm.
But it's all about, like, if a hero has a 40% win rate, that's not great. But if a good player plays it, they might have a 60% win rate. It's actually very difficult to balance for
It's
both
super hard.
sides. It's something I noticed as well. I don't know if this is you or if you're included in this line of thought, but remember we had this discussion about neutral items and outposts and whether we liked it or not. I actually, when I watch or cast competitive Dota, I do not like the outposts. I feel like it feels like they don't even matter past the second one at all, which doesn't that defeat the
experience
purpose
doesn't.
to a degree? Yeah, obviously the positioning and teeping into and all that stuff,
It's
but
really important in high skill.
I don't know. I'm liking the outposts less when I originally really liked them, actually.
I think they should
Um,
remove the experience.
So it's
There you go.
just a TP
It's a
spot,
strategical
essentially.
outpost that you can take to be able to teleport to. So one of my points of criticism for Dota in the last like year or 2 years is that I feel like the players' hands are forced too much. This is a game of creativity. At least it used to be a lot, and it still is with drafting and how you play. It's not like the game is saying you have to do this, you have to do that, but it's saying it more than it used to. You start adding basically mandatory bounty runes at this exact time in these exact locations. You added the outposts these exact time, these exact locations. Then you moved them, but they're still there. And Dota used to have one objective that you could fight over, which was Roshan, before bounty runes existed. Roshan has been in the game forever. And the big difference between Roshan and bounty runes and outposts is that, number one, he doesn't have a set time that it has to happen. So it's the team's choice. Number two, he's way harder to get. So it's way more of an investment and a strategical thing where you either draft for it, or you wait for the right item timings, or you team wipe the enemy and get it as your reward. But bounty runes are just there, and you have to deal with it. It's like it's a forced objective, basically. I don't think that's unfair to say. It's a forced objective, and it was put into the game because people thought Dota. Maybe they thought there wasn't enough fighting. You know, it's what the fans love to watch: is heroes die and people get kills. It's not as interesting to watch a farm fest, but in terms of giving the players agency in the game, letting them choose if it's the best play is like, how to say, it's the best play. It's the best gameplay, but it might not be the best viewing experience. So from my perspective, the more you let players control what happens in Dota, the more beautiful it is. Because that's when you get crazy strategies that completely clash, where one team is just split pushing and the other one really wants to fight and they can't do it. Now it's like, you have to fight, guys. You can't just give up 20 bounty runes in a row. You're going to lose.
There's definitely a balance to that, because again, this is for casual competitive, right? Casual, you kind of need that. You need to nudge some of these lower MMR players to do something. But it's kind of the same mentality of Heroes of the Storm, right? Like,
but
I like the idea of taking ideas from other games, like the talent trees from Heroes
Mhm.
of the Storm. Let's not kid ourselves.
Talent trees are
which is
super good.
an idea
I'm
from
never
other
going to
games
argue
as well.
against
So
those.
I
They're
have
great.
no problem taking
Absolutely.
stuff from other games, but sometimes you can go a little bit far, which I think it might have gone a bit far in this regard.
So
Can I ask a favor?
there's a case to be
Syndrome?
made here really quickly. There's
Okay.
a case to be made here that if you want to incentivize more kills and activate lower bracket games or whatever, make kills more valuable, right? Like you don't have to I don't think you have to put in objectives for people to fight over in order to motivate them to group up if it's a valid and powerful strategy in the game to get kills and it feels rewarding when you get kills on your heroes, then you would expect people to naturally start searching for it. That doesn't mean it happens every game. There will always be games where someone's like, haha, I go jungle legion, you know? But like I think
I missed that.
I know this is extremely difficult to do, but there is a world where you can have a game of Dota where killing is rewarded, but it is not the only way to win, right? We have had patches. It's starting to feel like a couple of years ago now because I want to say the last 2 years Dota has been more about team fighting than ever, and obviously the forced objectives are a big contributor to that. They've definitely not made it less team fighty, and people love to watch that. So I understand, but like split pushing as an overall draft strategy has kind of been dead for 2 years now. Like actually dead. You don't see teams. It's still a part of the game, but it's not the overarching strategy. The overarching strategy is always when can we fight. That is always what people look out for. There is a world where you can balance it, so it's nice to go for kills, but you can also farm creeps and you can also split push. We've had it. It's super difficult, and the more complexities you add to the game, the more difficult it gets. If you add talents, if you add new items, if you add neutral items, if you had bounty runes and outposts, like at some point, like how do you make every playstyle viable in that complex of a game? It's almost impossible. So it will naturally get streamlined a little bit. And part of me feels like if we take forced objectives away, we give the players more creativity again. And the outpost would be a great start where it's like, leave them in there as an option. Let teams play for them when they want to and feel like it's valuable. Right now, we want control here, or we want to take Roche, so we want to have an outpost. Not we have to take one for experience. Like,
Right.
let the players choose when it's good. And bounty runes are just awkward because, like, how do you do that with bounty runes? I don't know. Like,
now that
you kind of have to remove them
I'm
from
just
that.
talking about this from a viewer perspective now. Now that the novelty of the neutral items have kind of gone away, do you care at all about them when watching? I feel like I don't give a shit unless it's like the tier 5s that we never see anyway.
So in like a negative way, you thought you would care more about them,
I
or
thought I
they're
would be
in a
more
balanced
excited
spot.
to talk about them, but they've been muddied down a lot to not just
right.
Like now they're just almost generic items that are almost not even worth mentioning most of the time. Like there's a few, don't get me wrong, but from a viewer perspective, I don't give a shit anymore. Which I don't
I think it's both good and bad, right? I think it's good that they're in a spot where we don't get it doesn't become an outrage like it was in the start. But at the same time, you would maybe like them to feel a little more flavorful in the game. But I also think largely it's honestly on the casters to make a bigger deal out of it, because I just think we didn't choose to talk about them very much, but they matter more than we gave them credit for.
So
it's just there's so much other stuff in the game.
I'm not saying they don't matter, but they're not interesting to talk about until you get to the tier 4, tier 5s, in my opinion, in a lot of cases. And the games just don't last long enough in a lot of like most of these Dota games end in 30 minutes, right? You're not going to see tier 4, tier 5 items. It will almost benefit just to get rid of a tier and just condense everything.
Usually the items you talk about during a cast are the game changers, right? The ones that we want to focus on, like somebody's getting a BKB, or this team just got Assault Cuirass, or this Naga has 2 key items in Manta Diffuse or whatever. You don't really talk very much about, oh, this guy got a Drum of Endurance, or finally he picked up Urn, right?
But if you look at
like,
the
value of the,
how dare you?
if you look at the value of the neutral items, the first 3 tiers kind of correspond to that quality of item, right? Whereas the tier 4 and tier 5 items start in quality corresponding to the big items that you want to talk about, like Manta, BKB, this kind of stuff. And that's just how it is. And it has to be that way. I think if the lower cost or the earlier neutral items start mattering that much, then you reach a point where the shop is the second priority. That's almost what happened when heroes could have neutral items stacked on them, was that we saw games where people got 3 neutral items and then they bought some regular minor items in the shop, and then it was the neutral items that make them shine,
Mhm.
which is also bad design, I think.
It was fun
So,
for the viewer, though.
all in all, I'm
You
pretty
have to
happy
say
with where
that.
we are with neutral items. I gotta
Can
say,
you
I think I'm pretty impressed with how well balanced it has become in such a short time, because the concept is really complicated to
can you do
balance
me a
out.
favor,
So
Cinder?
it's
Because
pretty
we
good.
all know what you just recently asked for in terms of getting more. Well, first you want no experience for the outposts, right? And then more
I'm not gonna
gold.
ask for him to buff the fountain. I'm not.
Cinder, I'm begging you.
It's
Can we
not.
just?
It's not
Okay, hold
happening.
on. Just hear me out, okay? Hear me out. This is more of an experiment than anything. Would it really kill you for the fountain to be buffed? I was actually
No,
thinking about this more,
it
and
wouldn't.
I actually don't think there is a reason to not want to nerf, because you're the only thing that we ever hear the benefit of having a weak fountain is that you sometimes get these cool kills in the fountain. But doesn't that work
Mhm.
in the other way as well, which we've seen in my mod now? If you dive in a professional game, the fountain, and you get killed, isn't that also really exciting that happened? And it provides a comeback mechanic if you're going to get cocky. I think
I
there's
guess.
zero downside to making the fountain just destroy
What
people's
I
fucking
would
faces.
like is for the fountain to prevent camping but not diving. And the most elegant thing I can think of is give the fountain break, and that's it. And there will still be heroes that can dive it, and there will still be heroes that can camp it, but it's way less frequent and it's way more specific.
Okay,
If the
that's the
fountain has
first step.
break, some of the big fountain campers can't do it to the same extent, like PA Bristleback, right? They
Mm-hmm.
get owned because they lose the passive that makes them dive fountain. But illusion heroes like PL can still do it, and the only way you remove that is multi-shot or some sort of chain lightning attack, bouncing
Multi-shot.
attacks like Death Ward or whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just like my perspective on this is just different than yours because I don't experience it as a problem ever. I just
Right.
never experience it as a
But
problem. But I know some people do, so I understand. But
do
I
you,
just
though?
haven't been there.
Do you understand, Cinder? The
I mean, I've
pain.
heard, I've read, and I've heard about people getting fountain camp for 30 minutes.
Yes.
The question is if the solution to that is nerfing the fountain or implementing something else than that, because it sounds more like an overarching problem. So let's say you make the fountain undiveable, right? Let's say it
Okay.
one shots. The people
That's a
that
little much.
fountain camp,
Sure.
aren't they just going to camp outside the fountain then? And not let you out? Aren't they going to find other ways to make you miserable? Like it's
I mean,
always
that's better
will
than
your
getting
solution?
30 deaths in a
Sure,
fountain.
it is, but does it remove the problem, or is there a better solution to this, such as? Well, I'm not coming up with one on the spot.
All right, so
So
I will
maybe
take
there
it.
isn't.
So Ice Frog obviously watches this, and he will listen to everything you say. This is not exactly what I want, Ice Frog. Just remember, this is what Cinderin wants now. He wants the fountain to break. That is step number 1. And we can get to step 2 and 3 in another patch. That's fine. Let's move on, Cinderin.
Okay.
You want to talk about OGA China?
Yep.
Talk to me.
So Dotapit, while we've been focused on the EU division and casting there has been the online portion. There's a Dotapit tournament running in China, which is concluded. It ran from May 1 to 11. I'll just quickly go over the top 4, and we can move on, because this has some implications on Chinese Dota. The winner, Vici Gaming, not too surprising. Second place, PSG LGD. Third, eHome, and fourth, RNG. So the big things here, the top 4 are pretty established and not too surprising based on their names. But the good news here is LGD getting a podium finish. They have been struggling so hard lately. So this is perhaps a good sign for times to come that LGD are starting to get back on track. They've had a really bad year since TI overall. Like, considering
Really
how
bad.
good this team has consistently been, they have been underperforming like no other team in the world, I think. Actually, the number one underperformer. They lost in open qualifiers. They lost in another qualifier. They got in tournaments they got invited to. They would consistently finish off the podium. And this is a team that is expected to be usually top 5 in the world. So they've
So
been
number 1
super underperforming.
underperformer. What about? I know
Yeah.
you're going to disagree, but it's all about scale here. What about Cloud9?
Mhm.
They existed for like 2 weeks, Cinderin.
Yeah, but
2
it's about
weeks.
expectations. Like
Okay.
the expectations to Cloud9 is not that they are a world championship team based on previous results, right? For LGD, it is. The
Again,
European version right now of LGD would probably be Nigma, who are hitting a really dry spell right now.
I feel like even with
But
low expectations, Cloud9 still went far and beyond below
sure,
anyone what they
I
were
mean,
expecting. I'm not disagreeing with you.
obviously
I
they
just
didn't
wanted
do
to bring
well.
it up.
No. Yeah, and
Okay.
the reason I don't put Nigma in the same category is that they're hitting a dry spell right now, but it's a way shorter duration. Like they've still had tournament win, they've had a finals. I think in the last few months, Nigma have got pretty good results. People are just super recency biased in Dota, and they always will be. Oh, you won TI? Well, you lost the next LAN, so TI was a fluke. Or oh, you won 3 majors in a row? Well, you lost the 4th one, so you're shit. You know, like there's variance in this game. You're not going to win every tournament all the time. Like it's not possible. So
Hmm.
um, when I look at a team like Nigma, I know they're really fucking good and they are not doing very well right now. But LGD have not been doing very well for 8 months, and Nigma have not been doing very well for a few weeks. There's a bit of a difference in magnitude in those
Yep,
two
I
things.
agree.
Enigma have a tendency of bouncing back. So I think the patch just kind of fucked them. I don't think this patch suits. Nigma to me is a very strategic team. I think the way they win lands and get good results is off of a super good understanding of macro gameplay. And Dota right now is a lot about fighting. Small skirmishes, tons of movements, where Nigma tend to be a bit more on the. It doesn't mean they can't play aggressive. They do, but they I think they've had a slightly harder time to adjust because they've historically valued map control and farm higher than kills. And right now it's ironic, right? Because you just said a moment ago that kills don't matter. But the way the meta is in Dota right now is a lot about quick aggressive moves
Hmm.
to get an advantage. Um, Not because the kills themselves are super valuable, but because fighting is seemingly the best way of getting map control. It's not about like you push some waves and then you take a team fight and that gives you a tower and that's how you get map control. But it's always that fight, and the fights are always fast and early, and that maybe doesn't favor them so much. So that's just my theory that they were a bit behind the curve on that.
Talk to
But
me about
yeah.
Yolo Knight.
Well, before we do that, we need to cover the other Dotapit
God
corner,
damn it,
which is I
Syndrome.
just mentioned the Chinese one. I just wanted to say this. There's not much to talk about. The other one is an online tournament starting actually tomorrow.
Oh,
I just want to mention the teams playing in Europe. Unfortunately, I just closed it down. I'll try to find it
as usual,
quickly.
very prepared. Thanks for putting this topic that you're not prepared to talk about in the outline.
Absolutely, I got it here. Relax. Okay, so OG, VP, Team Spirit, Alliance, Viking GG, Fly to Moon, Team Liquid, Ninjas in Pajamas, Hellraisers, and Team Secret. So it's a 10-team tournament. First place is $62,000. The total prize pool is $150. And it's an online league running for 11 days starting tomorrow. So, yeah, should be good. Some of the best of Europe and CIS, and obviously most notably right now in terms of power level, Secret and Liquid looking really good in Weplay Pushka League. But let's see who OG bring to the table as well. I think Topson is going to play this time from Malaysia, or
He
maybe he's
said
found a way to get
he said
home.
he's
I don't
coming
know.
soon, whatever that means.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think he's playing in that league. I have a feeling he's going to play. So we'll see how OG fare if they get to
exciting.
play with their full roster. But that's exciting.
All right, Yolo
All right,
Knight.
let me have a sip of water. I talked a lot.
Okay, Yolo Knight is a team in Division 2 of the Weplay Pushka League that have, this is your words, not mine, because I didn't even know about this until before this podcast, have used 11 different players during the tournament. Is that true?
Yeah,
Jesus.
they've been taking stand-ins so much. I think. Wait, is it? I'm trying to find them here. Oh, there they are. Yeah. So yeah, so Yolo Knight had a lot of stand-ins. Basically, they didn't do anything that was against the rules. So they weren't like, I don't even know if I would call it gaming the system. It's just they had so many stand-ins, right? If you're playing a tournament and you sign up with a 5-man roster, and let's say 1 week in, 2 of your players leave or something happens and they can't play, and then you start taking 2 stand-ins, and then those stand-ins get their stand-ins, and stand-ins get stand-ins.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. But supposedly they were also trying to get stand-ins that were out of the league, right? I'm not sure if Crit did play or if they wanted him to stand in, but they were trying to get like players that are not Division 2 players to stand in a Division 2 league, which is also not against the rules technically, but it's like
Should
people
be.
started hating on them a bit because they took so many stand-ins and they tried to get players that technically should not be playing in the league. So the question is just who's at fault? Is it the tournament for not setting stricter rules? Is it the teams for going a bit too far from what is fairness? And overall, what should be the solution? And what ended up happening yesterday is actually Yolo Knight couldn't field a roster against Viking GG, so they forfeited and they're knocked out. So that's kind of the end of that.
Oh.
They ended up finishing third, fourth,
Okay.
which is a great anticlimactic ending. They didn't even get to play their final game, but
lol.
But yeah, it's just like I don't have the solution here. I just wanted to say what the problem is, and I think for the most part, if you're a team that has this much instability and don't have the players, and you want to get stand-ins every time, it's not really. I don't fault them for trying to get stand-ins. I don't fault them for trying to get the best stand-ins that they can. It's more like, should it be allowed within the rules? Should it be like, you can have X stand-ins and you need to have them for the whole tournament, or you can have this many stand-ins in total, or the stand-ins cannot be playing in this division or have be from these teams. You could technically just say players from Division 1 are not allowed, or players from any of these teams are not allowed.
I
and
wonder
just make a hard list of teams.
So something that I like to do when we do tournaments is have wording in the contracts that say things are subject to change and we can do whatever the fuck we want, in essence. Obviously, it doesn't say exactly that. So if somebody's abusing something, you can just implement a rule and say, you can't do this anymore. And I'm curious why that wasn't a thing for this, because that sounds like obvious abuse to me. I mean, maybe some people don't think so. Because you're saying it's technically within the rules, but I think if most people look at the situation, they're going to be like, this should be against the rules. Just because it's technically not doesn't mean it should be allowed anyway. But obviously a lot of unknowns, so I'm only speculating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go on.
So these next... So Admiral Bulldog was temporarily banned from Twitch. Mason was temporarily banned from Twitch. We'll talk about each in their respective ways here. I feel like this is actually a weird topic to even discuss, but I figured we'd just bring it up as, it's a little spicy drama here and there.
I think it's interesting to talk about because of how close these two things happen to each other, and how there hasn't really been a precedent for this for a long time in Dota. I'm trying to remember the last time a Dota player was banned on Twitch for even just 24 hours for doing something. Like, it's just, there probably is something, but it doesn't really come to mind. And the fact that these two happened within the same week seems like Twitch are starting to take more action, basically, against stuff they don't like. Whether they should be taking action or not is a totally different conversation. But like what they want to ban for or whatnot, it just seems like they're trying to be a little bit more active here, for better or worse. Yeah. So quickly, supposedly, what Admiral Bulldog was banned for 24 hours was, at least the final thing I heard, I can't confirm this, was that he watched some clips of what's that called? I mean, it's called popping. I don't know what the real term is for it, but where you have like cysts in your skin being removed.
Oh, yeah.
He watched a couple of clips of that, and apparently that was too explicit. I don't know which terms of service or terms of use that's against.
Bodily fluids.
He just watched it.
I guess
he just watched it between. I guess so. Like maybe it might be in the terms. I honestly don't know.
That's
like,
pretty fucking funny. Actually, I didn't know that.
Supposedly he got banned for 24 hours for that, and I guess it falls under bodily fluids because Twitch don't want you to watch people pissing themselves or bleeding, whatever it is, and then that just falls under it. Apparently. So it's like, honestly, pretty damn harmless, but maybe it's a good thing to have that in the rules because some people react really strongly to that, and that can be super triggering, and some people can get uncomfortable watching stuff.
So doesn't spit,
you could say they could
saliva,
warn, but
saliva counts as bodily fluid. What if you're spitting on somebody? Is that against the rules? Spitting on the ground.
That's how it always is with these kind of things, right? Like,
where's the line?
Yeah. That's always what it's going to be. But that was supposedly Bulldog's. And then the one from Mason, which was a 3-day ban, so 3 times as long, was supposedly for typing something sexually explicit.
Right. This is by his own words. Hi, everyone. I was banned for typing something sexually explicit or something along those lines. Not entirely sure of the reason yet, but that's what the email leads me to believe. So I don't know what the hell he said, but I'm sure he says a lot of stuff that he could probably get suspended for. So can't say I'm shocked. But yeah, you could be right. Maybe they're cracking down. It could be a coincidence, of course, but
it could. It's just unlikely, right? there's no bans for a year, and then there's 2 within a week. That
Right.
seems like an administrative change. It
Hopefully,
really
if they're
does.
doing that, they'll also get rid of these Arcana streams
You're
as
gonna
well.
say hopefully they're gonna ban you next.
Yeah, Cinderin's a real racist. I hear him all the time on
I
stream.
mean,
Good lord.
I don't know. Obviously, Mason's own words, right? Like we don't know what exactly the utterance was. We don't know what happened, but yeah, it could be something where we're like, should that be punishable? And it could be something where we're like, oh hell yeah, that should be punishable. Just honestly, no clue. Like,
Yeah.
And I didn't see in the thread of him getting banned. I didn't see the concrete reason given by anyone than him apart from himself. So yeah, who knows?
We will never know. It's been deleted from all archives. Next topic and the final Dota one, Weplay drama. So they got themselves in a little hot water this week. So there's a caster in Brazil named Cold Fox who got a DMCA
Right.
for casting, to my knowledge, and based on what he's saying, of course we can't verify that as far as I know, that he was casting on Dota TV, the Weplay thing, which should be allowed, and not using camera and not using audio, meaning he's doing his own, which by Valve's rules is allowed, and Weplay issued a DMCA. So a lot of people are very upset about this. I think on one side, again, haven't looked too deeply into this, but we can't verify if that's actually true what happened. But they haven't lifted it as far as we know. So this one of those DMCA situations again where people are all up in arms about it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, when was the last time we had something like this? It's been a while, but it has happened a couple of times before. The first time Valve
Bulldog
really
streaming
stepped in
probably was the last one.
Yeah,
Or somebody
it might
streaming.
be. The reason Valve really stepped in was that there started to be some confusion. Like I think the original DMCA strikes were more from ESL a while back, who wanted their content for themselves, and Valve said, you know what, this is how it works. If you use only your own camera and your own audio, you can do whatever you want as long as you don't have sponsors on the screen. If you don't have any sponsor overlays that conflict with the tournament, it was allowed. So, for example, if I on my stream want to watch any pro game, I can do it as long as I don't use any of their camera or casters, because then I'm stealing their content. And Valve's logic here is that the game itself is public property. So you should be allowed to watch any pro game, no matter who runs the league, no matter who the broadcasters are, doesn't matter. Everything is public in that sense. And that's pretty clear and well defined. So we don't really fully know exactly what happened here. It's possible that the DMCA strike is just misplaced, that they don't understand the rules. There's a good chance that like whenever rules like these are implemented, if the person doing the strike isn't aware and everybody else is, it doesn't really matter, right? Like it's possible it's just a personal mistake from somebody at Weplay who's like, hey, they're stealing our content, I'm going to send a strike. And everybody else is like, why the hell did you do that? That was really stupid. Now we're getting flack for it. So like, it doesn't need to be like a major company decision to be like, we want this for ourselves. It could be an individual mistake. It could be a misunderstanding about what's allowed. Whenever there's rules like this, once in a while, somebody will either not know it, will have forgotten, will have the wrong interpretation, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be malicious. It doesn't. And either way, it's pretty straightforward. If Weplay DMCA'd them, and they did what was within Valve's rules, it's a malplaced DMCA. If any of the other things were not obeyed to, then they kind of have a case, right? If the person had sponsors on their screen that conflict with Weplay sponsors, or if they did use their camera or did use their audio, which I just haven't verified. But supposedly, based on what is being said here, Cold Fox was in the right with the way he streamed, so I think it's just probably a misunderstanding. But I mean, I don't know. It's I feel like doing this maliciously right now is just a stupid move, right? Like I don't think anybody will do this on purpose, DMCA someone when they know that it's not against the rules from Valve. So I'm gonna just chalk it up to being a mistake and a misunderstanding, honestly, because there's like there's no benefit to doing this, right?
No, for sure. And YouTube strikes are pretty serious these days. They've gotten a lot worse for the content creators, especially when it's certain situations. You get like the Artifact song that I made. We got a copyright strike against that, even though my brother literally made the music and I sung. It was like there's no copying at all. But it's so much worse than it used to be. Like, we actually got a strike a few weeks ago. No, not a few weeks. It was like maybe 3 months ago, and we could not post anything on the channel for a week. And this is like a major channel, right?
Yeah.
Well, I like to call ourselves a major channel.
Yeah, it's still a major channel.
So yeah, it's kind of a big deal. So we'll see what occurs going forward. We'll probably update people in the next podcast or next episode if things progress any further, or if this just gets buried in the sand.
Just to finish off on what I said, like how is it worth it? Like, basically, if you DMCA somebody, what you assume is that part of their audience will go to you because their audience gets taken down. But the negative backlash, if you do it incorrectly, has to be a way bigger loss than the audience you gained. It just has to be. So that's why I'm making the point here that I don't think they did this knowing that it was... I mean, I don't know. Who fucking knows? Maybe there's somebody who thought this was a good idea, but it obviously isn't, to DMCA falsely. And for me personally, I would be very surprised, just because of every experience that you and I both have had with Weplay. This is so against...
It's out of character. Yeah.
It's totally out of character. That's why this stands out to me. There's like so many more tournament organizers that I could see do this before Weplay. It's a bit weird. So that's why I'm pretty convinced it's a mistake, but I can't say it for sure. It's just strange.
Like I think for Moonduck, we've DMCA'd a couple people before, but those are like restreaming on YouTube live kind of stuff where they're just literally copying, like they're not doing any of their own commentary or camera or anything. That's a DMCA worthy shit right there.
They're just stealing content. That's something else.
They pop up all the time as well. It's pretty commonplace. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Who knows?
Cinderin, I have some good news for you. Well, the bad news, which turns into good news for this week, is we missed last week's Artifact update because I woke up so late in the day that I didn't even see it. So we got 2 updates to talk about for Artifact. For all the people that hate Artifact, you can stop listening now. We love you, though. We'll talk about
for all the people that hate Artifact,
yes,
stick around because we have really important stuff to talk about later, including Elon Musk's son. So you don't want to miss that one. Elon Musk's son is important. You don't want to miss that.
That is going to be a funny topic. So I don't even know where to begin with this. Both updates are related to the shop, the secret shop as they call it. It's basically just at the end of every round, you get a shop that you get to choose your items and whatnot. So what I'm going to read is the goals that they have for this new version, and then we'll talk about some of the intricacies behind it, as well as a lot of the new cards that have been revealed. So goals for the new version of Artifact Shop. We'd like you to have better access to your items compared to the original game. Items in general should have their cost reflect when they are useful in the game. Early items should help build small advantages, and late game items should help close the game out. We like to keep the ability to find a random item that could help you out. No class of items, early or late, should be too powerful as to skew the selection one way or another. Less math, which I feel like, was math really that big of a deal in the original? That's the only one I didn't really understand.
Big portion of their... Never mind.
Required tools such as Town Portal Scrolls shouldn't be available based on luck, which that's a huge one. Playing draft, hoping to God, like getting stranded was the worst feeling with a hero. So that's definitely a nice change. So right now, where's this section here that talks about? So at the first shopping phase, you have access to a 10. I mean, is there a better way to explain this shop, Cinderin, than just reading what's on the screen? Is there a better way to just sum it up? So. Okay. So at the first shopping phase...
if you want to read all of the text, that is a lot.
It is. I don't want to go down too far here.
Okay.
So essentially the way it works is you get 3 items to choose from, some of which are from your original deck, but they're based on tiers, and the tiers are based on what level your shop is, which in all likelihood is related to what mana cost or what mana you're at right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and it just continues each round. But the cool thing is you can upgrade the shop to get higher tier items at any point. So you have more control over what shows up in the shop itself. And if you can't afford anything or there's nothing that you want, you can invest, which means you just get 3 gold for the next round, which is really cool. That's the very, very basics behind the shop. So in a lot of ways, it is similar to the old one, but just with a lot of tweaks. So I guess that's maybe the best way to go about it. So let's talk about some of the items, Cinderin. Why don't you start with the old Force Staff?
Oh, I start. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
2-turn cooldown, which is kind of seemingly becoming the most common cooldown in cards we've seen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be the go-to. So it gives 2 damage, 2-turn cooldown, and it costs 1 mana, just as everything else. All items will now cost mana, like we talked about previously. Displace a unit. So I'm assuming this means that you just move it to a different slot on the board that you cannot choose.
Right. So it says it's one of the few random effects we've added to the game. It pushes a unit randomly left or right one slot, but can only push into an unoccupied slot.
So if the
10 gold.
2 slots next to it are taken, but there's 2 open slots outside of that, you can't force that unit out. You can force the next unit out.
Right. So you have a little bit more control over where it ends up. So sounds interesting. Necronomicon is a 15 gold item, gives you 6 HP, and deploys demonic archers instead of melee creeps. So from my memory, melee creeps are now 1/1s, and these demonic archers are instead 1/2s. So
are they 1/1s?
I believe so, yes. And at the round start, the demonic archer will deal 1 damage to the closest enemy. So it can stack up pretty nicely. That's a 15 gold item, by the way, the Necro.
Yeah, but it's only in the lane that the hero is in that this happens in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll take the last one, then we can talk about the latest update. So Root Boots, 20 gold item, gives you 2 armor, and it's an aura, so no mana cost at all. Adjacent enemies are rooted and have +2 decay. This one sounded really OP to me. You just can't leave the lane, essentially. But then you have to keep somebody on your side there to root them, right? Sounds very strong. But I'm sure there's other ways to get around it, perhaps.
Just kill the hero carrying it, man. There you go.
Yep, that's true.
Done
Just
deal.
Kill him.
Just kill him.
Yeah. So this week they updated a little bit of they changed some of the wording around. We don't need to get into too specific because I know we get a little bit too ham on some of these updates. So we can just talk about some of the item reworks. Start with Phase Boost, which used to give 4 HP, I want to say, and you swap
I think so.
places with another unit, right?
Yeah.
So what does
now
it do
it
now?
does the same thing. 3 health, though. It gives 3 health, and then it's a 2-turn cooldown for 1 mana. It says swap this hero to another position, which sounds like you might actually be able to Phase Boots into an empty slot. I don't think you could do that before. You had to swap with someone, right?
Right. Yes.
Or could you? I actually don't remember anymore. It's a long time ago.
No, that's true. You could not.
You couldn't Phase Boost into an empty slot.
No.
Maybe you can now. It doesn't specify here. It's possible that you can do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the point of even mentioning this? Because it's basically the same. But yeah.
It has a mana cost and a different cooldown and a different health, right? I mean, it's also just, I think it's for them to showcase how they envision the value of a 10 gold item. I think that's the idea. So the next 10 gold item they're showing is Classroom Hourglass. I saw this. I was like, this is too good for 10 gold, but maybe I'm missing something. So it gives 3 health and then +2 lock to any extra cards your opponent draws each round. So if any hero in any lane is holding this item, any card they draw can't be used for 2 turns. So that's like the old Classroom Hourglass, but that one was way more expensive than Phase Boots, and now they cost the same. So I don't know
what it used to do is it would lock any new cards that you draw at the beginning of the round for 1 round, right? This one will not lock the cards that you draw normally at the beginning of the round. It will only lock cards that you draw during the round itself. So if you have this is the ultimate fuck you blue item. If you draw a shit ton of cards in the round, this will fuck you up, which is great. I love it. Very nice.
I feel like maybe the wording on the card should be different. I don't think that's an obvious way of interpreting this. I think it's too ambiguous.
It says +2 lock to any extra cards your opponent draws each round. So it could say any cards in addition to the regular ones that you get every round, but that's
or it could just say +2 lock to any cards your opponent draws during the round. Isn't that just it? Because the normal card draws are before the round.
Okay,
right?
Sure, during the round.
I think so. Maybe.
Well, but that's
anyway.
not
When I read
true.
this, I didn't intuitively I'm assuming I'm not like super stupid and everybody else gets this right the first time they read it. It's possible. Maybe I'm just an idiot. But I think this wording is a little bit.
See, if
I
they
mean, you're gonna
change the wording
understand it after.
to what you said, then if you draw an extra card at the beginning of the round,
Well, how does it work with that?
it will lock it if it's an extra card. I understand
So
what
how
you're
do you draw
saying.
an
It
extra
is
card in the beginning of the round? What does that?
well, the old game when there was improvements, there was cards that you get two. There's that one that Howling Mind, I think it was. You get 2 extra cards. Each person gets 2 extra cards beginning of the round,
Right.
whatever it is.
Okay.
That's.
I don't know.
But
maybe I just need to get over myself and read
it doesn't
better.
sound like this is something we can talk about after we read these, but it doesn't sound like there's improvements anymore, which makes me really fucking sad. Those are like the coolest things in my eyes, at least for cards. But Niktasha's Guard, it's a 30 gold item, which I believe it was 25.
Was so fucking good.
Yeah, so before it was 25 gold, and you could activate it every single round on a hero, and it would move the adjacent heroes and the one in front of you to random lanes. It was unbelievably good, but it was a random lane.
That was probably my favorite card to get in the whole game. I was like, I am invincible.
Now it's a 30 gold item. It's still one. Still has a cooldown of 1, but it costs 1 mana. Gives you 1 armor, and it reduces adjacent enemies to 1 health. They are stunned, rooted, and feeble, which we talked about the other week. That still sounds really strong. Feeble is it the overpower one? Man, I'm actually forgetting. Is it when you deal damage over what they are, it goes to the tower?
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I think that's what it is. So if they're only 1 health, then and you deal 5 damage, you're doing 4 damage to the tower. This sounds really strong. 30 gold.
The old one was better, obviously, but this is still really good. I think the old one situation.
The old one, sometimes you didn't want to cast it because it's a random lane, and it was more situational than this one. This one's always good.
It's true. That's fair to say. The old one was often a game winner.
Yes.
Just on the spot. It was like a primal roar whenever you wanted it, which it was even better than that. So.
And they have revealed 3 hero reworks. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, it looks like the improvement icon is still on this. I don't know what that means, but let's talk about Prelix. So Prelix, blue hero, is now a 2/4. I believe she was a 3/5 before.
Yes.
She has a reactive ability called Gather the Faithful. Deploy to the right instead of the left, and mega creeps instead of melee creeps. And then the deploy, so when you play her originally, redeploy your leftmost melee creep. So mega creeps are 2/3s. So it's not like they're ginormous, but they obviously destroy normal creeps very easily. And she comes with the card Barracks, which used to be 5 mana. It used to be an improvement, but now it just says Aura for 3 mana. Your creeps have 1 attack, 1 health. +1, that is, to each.
But this looks like it's still an improvement you put in the lane.
Right. And then now that I'm looking at it again, like you said, it does show an improvement, but it says Aura, so I don't know, and I'm confused how that works.
The improvement just has an aura, I guess, and some other improvements don't have an aura. That's my guess.
They probably just changed the wording then. Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
So yeah, it sounds
so like every creep that Prelix deploys is a mega creep. So in any lane Prelix is in, when the deployment phase kicks in, she gets mega creeps.
And they all spawn to the right instead of the left. So we don't know the intricacies of how this works. Yeah, I mean, maybe we do if we go back to patch notes.
It's a pretty strong card, actually.
Yeah, before her barracks would take forever to ramp up. Like, she was never a hero in Constructed. Sometimes in Draft you'd pick her up because she was useful, but sounds like you have more control over things, so that's nice. Take Axe, Cinderman. We got 2 more. All
right. So Axe is now at 3/2/5. I don't think that was the stat line we saw on him last time, but I could be wrong about that. We saw this card
Did we?
Wasn't that one of their previous blog posts where they first showcased the new health of heroes? Was Axe shown? I thought he was shown with a different stat line.
I could have sworn it was Bristle, but maybe.
It might. Oh, yeah. It's Bristle. You're right. Okay, so anyway, Axe has 3 damage, 2 armor, 5 health. He has Berserker's Call, so that was what used to be the card. Right. Was the 6-cost card that came with Axe is now a 2 cooldown, 1 mana ability, where Axe does exactly the same as he did before. So it's way more reliable than having to draw a 6 cost, and it's obviously a lot cheaper. But Axe is also a lot weaker.
Yeah.
Acts as a weaker hero by far with 325. The really nice thing about this Berserker's Call, though, is it seems like it can just clear a creep wave, basically. Since you have 3 damage and 2 armor, you don't take damage from creeps, and you just kill all of them at once for 1 mana. That sounds really good. Adjacent is obviously 3 slots. And then he has a 2-cost card, Culling Blade, where you slay a damaged enemy hero with 3 or less health, and it's repeatable.
That's cool.
I find it pretty unlikely that you cast that twice, but it can happen. Like, there needs to be 2 heroes in the same lane that Axe is in, and they both need to have 3 health or less. I don't know. Do any heroes start with less than 4 health?
I mean, the
like,
thing
can this
is,
one-shot some heroes? I think the lowest HP we've seen is 4, right?
It's probably going to be 4 as the lowest, yeah. Otherwise, that would be annoying. But at the same time, it sounds like it ignores armor, and heroes start with so much less health than they used to. So this sounds like, after a damage round, of course, you come back and you can use this a bunch of times. That sounds really cool. I like that
I'm assuming since it says repeatable, it costs 2 mana every time you cast it.
Yes.
Not that you can just kill 3 heroes for 2 mana if they're all low.
Right. And you lose the card. You don't get to keep the card if you don't use it again. It goes away at the end of the round. So, and then the last one is Ogre Magi, one of the most annoying fucking heroes ever. Is now less annoying, thank God. He is a 2 attack, 2 armor, 4 health blue hero. His reactive ability is multicast, which was the same before, but it's changed now. The first blue spell, the first blue spell or enchantment you cast from the lane can be repeated this round. 2-round cooldown. So before you had was it a 25% chance to just get a copy of the card you just cast?
Copy the card, dude.
It could be any spell or any. Yeah, it was just any spell. The worst.
Actually,
the worst RNG.
The old multicast was, like, in terms of, in my opinion, bad card design, conceptually, it was in the same tier as Cheating Death, actually. Like, that aspect of it was just... I'm not saying it was a better card. Like, Ogre wasn't more broken than Cheating Death. I just conceptually really dislike that way of designing a card. Like, this is way more elegant. You let the player choose... they can be repeated. It has a cooldown, and you are in charge of when it happens. Maybe this is broken. Like, maybe it's too good that you can do this. But the nice thing about it is fixing it is relatively easy. You give it longer cooldown, or you give it a mana cost, and there you go. All of a sudden, it's kind of fixed. The other one was like, what are you going to do? Change the percentage that it happens from 25 to 12?
Really
and then it still feels stupid when it happens. Like, you're always going to feel cheated if the enemy gets lucky.
Yeah.
It was just really not good. Same with the old Janata from Bounty Hunter. 50% chance to do +4 damage. Like,
I love that one.
Or just get like +4 damage, rather, when you get placed. Like, weird stuff. I love this way more.
Ogre Magi's card, it is Ignite still, but it's a little bit different now. It's 4 mana. I believe it was 3 mana before, and it was
an enchantment.
It was an improvement.
An improvement. Yeah.
So now it's a 4 mana. It has the spell icon on the top left of it, but it says Enchant Caster. Round start, deal 1 piercing damage to each enemy. So it costs 4 mana. This is basically the old Necro card, Heartstopper, except it's not just adjacent enemies, it's the whole board. Which is really strong, and you will multicast this with multicast, but you need the mana, right?
Yeah.
You need 8 mana, essentially, to get 2.
The cool thing here is the old Ignite, you basically chose a lane to be strong in. The new Ignite, you put it on Ogre, and now you get to switch your strategy during the game of where you want this piercing damage to be. You don't, like, commit to, this will be my Ignite lane.
Yeah.
Now it's like, I need Ignite in this lane now, so now I can move Ogre, or I can have him die and replace him in a different lane, reassign him. So I think this looks cool to me. I think it's a nice idea. Obvious synergy with multicast. I wonder why it's Enchant Caster. Like, why they think, is it too good if you can put it on a different hero than Ogre? Wonder why they chose this. Not sure about that.
Wait, what do you mean? It doesn't have to be on Ogre.
It does. It says Enchant Caster.
Yeah, but Caster can be any blue hero, right?
Oh, okay. I thought the caster meant that it was tied to Ogre as the caster, because he owns the card.
I don't think so.
It's just any blue hero? Okay.
That's the way I'm looking at it.
Okay.
I mean, then again, what if you have a blue hero and a red hero, and you cast this?
Then you can't cast it on the red hero, because he can't be the caster, right?
Wouldn't
I'm
it just
assuming
say
that.
enchant on a blue hero? I mean, yeah.
Enchant blue hero, I guess.
I assume that it's just.
I think the reason it is like that is exactly so you can't put it on red heroes, because we're assuming that red heroes will still be on average tankier, and obviously putting this on the tankiest possible hero makes it the best it can be. Maybe that was considered too good.
Yep.
I don't know.
Okay, so those are the artifact updates from the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And
promising.
Yep, for sure. I'm still looking forward to seeing what the board looks like. I can't even envision. I can't even picture it in my mind. Okay, and 2 quick topics, Cinderin. Yep. Amazon has a new free-to-play game coming out on May 20th. I mean, Amazon Studios is pretty ginormous. In terms of their gaming stuff, they're starting to come out. I remember alpha testing it was like a Rocket League type of game, except it was heroes. So you had heroes with abilities, but you wanted to get this ball in a goal. It was interesting. I mean, it's not something I would probably play a lot of, but it wasn't bad by any means. Right. So this one is called Crucible. And according to this article, it introduces plenty of new ideas, but the best way to set the scene is through concepts you're familiar with. It's essentially a hero shooter crossed with a MOBA. You pick a character with a set of abilities and a preferred weapon, known here as hunters, and battle out to control the map. So, did you look at the video?
I watched it.
What did you think?
At first glance, I wasn't very interested. I'll just be honest. Like, I think I'm trying to think of what that game has on other games. I think that's the best way of explaining it. Like, I see that trailer, which was like a minute and a half, and I'm just like, they're putting other words on stuff that already exists. It's like, the game mode sounded like, what was it? There's a domination mode where you need control points. There was it just a deathmatch mode? And essentially capture the flag, right? Wasn't that what the first one was?
Yeah, they had 3 modes.
Yeah. There was a capture the flag, there was a domination, and then I don't remember what the other one was. It wasn't just deathmatch, but it's like, it feels like it's trying to
mix-mash every genre.
No, not really. It's like they're trying to wrap something. It's still the same thing. It's just different wording. You know, like, I saw that, and I didn't see in that trailer, I didn't see these new ideas. I only saw the concepts I'm familiar with. So, like, maybe it's because I'm not thinking about it in terms of, oh, this is a capture the flag where it's not just a shooter, but you also have spells. And maybe that's the new idea, but that's not really a new idea, right? It's just combining 2 old ideas.
Yes.
Did anything stand out to you in that trailer where you're like, wow, this is new and cool? I didn't see anything new. I just didn't see
I don't know if being new matters, though. We've talked about this before.
But I mean, if they're saying the game introduces new ideas, I'm expecting the trailer to show me at least one new idea.
True.
Right?
If
that's what they're trying to do. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not the advertisement. Was this just a wording from somebody else? It was just PC games.
It could just be marketing.
So maybe this guy hasn't played multiplayer games since 1995. And it's like, wow, this is really cool. I don't know. I just didn't see the new ideas.
So what you're saying is you're really looking forward to this game. I mean, I think I'm going to say this. I don't know about the game itself. It doesn't look interesting to me personally. But then again, that doesn't mean anything because I find almost every game unenjoyable anyway. It's Dota.
Yeah, you hate
recently
life.
Valorant. That's basically it. Not even Counter-Strike anymore. I can't stand CSGO. I think they butchered the shit out of that. But that's another story.
You're getting old.
But it's good to see that there's another studio coming out with stuff. I love the competition. I love these. Like, I hope it gets big because that's better for everybody. But it does not look interesting at all. But it comes out in a week, so we'll be able to try it. And well, I don't know if Cinderin will try it. Maybe I don't know if I will either. To be honest,
you can have a look.
Last topic, unless you want to actually talk about Crucible some more.
No. I would say one more thing. Like the graphics that are showcased. Also, I'm not very much of a graphics person. I don't think graphics are nearly as important as gameplay. To me, they're always the thing that adds to the experience and gives it that. Like a game that's a 9 out of 10 can be a 10 out of 10 because the graphics are astounding. But it's always going to be the gameplay first. To give you a great example, Ori and the Blind Forest, which we talked about a few episodes ago, the gameplay is awesome, the story is great, and then the graphics are fucking breathtaking. And that is like the extra. That is the extra thing about that game. That's just, nailed it. But Ori and the Blind Forest would not be a good game if it was really pretty and there was no substance. Crucible, to me, not even the graphics seemed that interesting either. The shooting animation seemed very cartoony, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was like this weird mix of, I felt like a disconnect between these high poly models and like the objectives and everything. The objectives and the characters were trying to look like photorealistic, and then the shots looked like out of a cartoon. Like it was really disconnected. Like it wasn't. It was like it was trying to do two things at once.
It was
right?
as if League and Overwatch were combined. That's the closest comparison.
Kind of. Yeah. So I don't know if these are like just alpha stuff and that they will change these animations, but to me it felt out of place. It's like you have Counter-Strike.
It's coming out in a week.
Counter-Strike.
For God's sake.
Yeah, so it's basically the end of the beta. It's kind of like if Counter-Strike had the exact setting that it does, but everybody's shooting with water guns. It would just feel weird, right? Like, why are they planting a bomb and then fighting over it with a fucking water gun?
It's funny you say that, because if CS was rebranded as like a paintball game, do you actually realize how much better that would be for branding? How much easier it would be to put on TV? How much more money they would actually make?
But then you wouldn't plant the bomb either. That's my point.
You'd plant like a plant.
You would plant the plant, and they wouldn't be terrorists and counter-terrorists. So you were kind of redesigning the game.
This is what Valorant did.
You're redesigning the cosmetic of the game, right?
Cinder, you plant a seed, and then after 35 seconds, it sprouts into a cactus, and that team, the gardeners, win.
And you're like, oh shit, that's a dangerous cactus.
It's moles versus gardeners, Cinder, and moles want to destroy the plants. The gardeners just want to plant them.
I actually want this as a mod now. It's so stupid.
Dude, I gotta make that game now. All right.
Okay.
Final topic before we get to the Patreon mailbag. Elon Musk, his son has been named, and there's been a lot of memes, and I have to look up the pronunciation again. Mm-hmm. It is A12. What the fuck is he thinking? He's literally insane. He's gonna ruin this kid's life. That's horrible.
Did we have this? Did I talk about this on my stream or on the last episode of the podcast where I said you can't bully someone for their name if nobody knows what the name is?
They'll just give him a nickname.
I think I talked about this on my stream.
They're just going to call him Ash, probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's okay, right?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Of course. I just take
I was
offense
obviously
to this.
joking. It's
any name. Okay, here's the thing. I got bullied a lot in school, Cinder, and it was brutal. Living with a girl's name in the United States, at least, in the U.S., when I moved here when I was 10, it's brutal. It's fucking awful. I can't imagine what it's like to be basically named after a robot, where each birthday is like a new patch update. Like, here's the change log. You gained pubic hair this year. Congratulations.
Oh my god, he might fucking do it. That's the thing. Like every time it's his birthday, he files to change the certificate. So then it's version 2.0.
So I'm trying to remember what this was named at. So A12 is the predecessor for the SR-17 or something like that, some airplane. I don't know anything about this stuff. The X is the unknown variable, and the Ash, which is I've never seen this symbol before. It's an A and a capital E combined. It's the Elven spelling of AI.
This is a letter in Danish, and I'm not joking, actually. It's one of our three vowels. It's one of our three vowels that English doesn't have.
Okay.
This one is called A. It's basically A-E combined when you draw it.
A? Did you say A?
A.
A?
The three Danish vowels that English doesn't have is E, Ö, and O.
That sounds like normal letters to me, just horrible pronunciation.
Well,
so it's A-E-I-O-U, but it's A-I-O-U. It's like that? Is that close?
Wow, you said U. That's actually our Y. It's called U.
It's like a moose.
Good job. You found another vowel.
Toes.
Hey, I thought this was about making fun of Elon Musk, not the Danish language.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bully you. My apologies.
You're sidetracking here. Yeah, we don't bully here. Yeah, I mean, what opinion am I supposed to have about this?
Are you okay? Well, first of all, apparently it might be illegal in the state of California. They don't accept symbols as names. Shocker, I know. No numbers either are allowed. So I don't know what's going to come about from that.
Okay.
But how fucked up do you have to be to name your kid this? Like, that's such a
Can
really
we
irks
try to
me.
look at it from a different perspective? We
Sure.
looked at, okay, the kid is going to get bullied. It's a hard to pronounce name. People won't be able to remember it. What is the positive to this?
That the parents like the name. That's the positive. It's unique.
Okay, there are plenty of unique names you could come up with that don't make you sound like something that was designed specifically to please your parents.
Right. I mean, then again, if you were called, like, there's worse names, right? You can be called Ballsack McGee. Okay. That's a
Is
worse
that
name.
worse?
I think so.
You can be called Dick, so why can't you be called Ballsack? Let's just include the whole thing. What's the issue, you know?
I mean, that's true. We got to keep things kosher overall. I agree. Ballsack McGee. That's not bad. It could be naming the next Guardian, actually. We'll think about it.
I
I don't know.
I'm trying to get around what the thing, like, if this is something that's really personal to them, like there's some sort of encrypted message in here that that means a lot to the parents. Nobody's gonna fucking get it, including the kids. Like, there's so many other ways that you can. I'm just thinking, like, if you really want some sort of subliminal meaning or whatever, put it in a last name or a middle name in your own way, right? That's still
Right.
it's just weird, man. Like, part of me feels like this is a stunt and it's not gonna be allowed, and then they're gonna be like, oh, okay, well then we'll just call him John. And that's it. Like, and then it got
After
a
all
lot of
that, it's
media
gonna be
time.
John.
Yeah. And they got a lot of media time, and that was it. Like, but like, knowing Elon, he loves doing crazy shit and weird stuff, and
Yeah.
for better or worse, getting a lot of attention for it. It's just, Elon strikes me. So I have a friend, and this is not a negative trait about him. He like, my tagline for him, if translated to English, was, "I had to see if I could." That's him. So in Dota, there would be an easy way of doing something or an easy escape, and there would be like a 1% play, and he would always go for the 1% play because he had to see if he could pull it off. You know? You know that kind of person. Like, they just have to do this crazy shit.
Right.
This is reminding me of that. It's like, let's see if I can do it. Let's see if I can get away with it. Let's see what happens. But then, like, maybe not thinking about the backlash or the bigger implications, but just, I wanted to see if I could do it. You know? That's the vibe this guy gives me with stuff like this.
His vibe in general lately has been pretty. I mean, I follow him on Twitter, and I used to be, I really like the idea of Elon Musk, but based on some of the stuff he's done in the last year alone, it's pretty clear he's kind of insane. I mean, I was thinking more about it. Like, billionaires, they get to where they are because they're not normal. They're cutthroat. And that usually means that you're a pretty bad person. Like, you've become a pretty bad person.
Some people actually get born into this amount of wealth. Just like A12 will be born into this.
No, that's true. I'm talking about self-made billionaires. So Elon Musk, what's the guy from Amazon? Jeff Bezos, people like that. They're like literal psychopaths, I'm pretty sure. Or sociopaths, or some combination. The only person I can think of, and it makes me doubt whether this is actually true, but he seems like a good person, is Bill Gates. Like, maybe while he was running Microsoft, it was a bit of a, like, whatever you want to call it, it was a monopolistic company, and maybe he did some shady stuff. I have no idea, but
he's from the previous patch before the insanity was introduced.
The insanity. That is, 2020, man. Holy jeez. But yeah, Bill Gates seems like a good dude.
The funny thing is, I had this exact thought. I think it was actually yesterday. I was like, what billionaires don't do weird shit and just do good stuff? And I think we're really biased in our line of thinking because what makes the news, right? What makes the news is either overwhelming acts of kindness or it's negatives, right? So how many billionaires out there just mind their own business that you don't hear about? Probably tons of them, right? So I don't think there's inherently
self-made billionaires.
There's not like, I think so. There's a lot of billionaires in the world by now.
Typically, self-made billionaires are going to be more, I don't want to say renowned, but more famous than the type that just are born into it.
Right, but think about how many self-made billionaires there are in the world and how few you hear about.
How many are there?
So,
I don't know.
I don't know, but there's definitely more than the three we just mentioned.
No, that is a good point, though. A lot of the stuff that's going to come up on the news is going to be very negative.
It's just bias, right? It's the fact that what makes a good story, what do people want to hear about? It's not a very good story that billionaire number 6 had a good week this week. Like, who wants to hear about that? Like, who cares?
You know,
Great
I want to
that
hear
they're
about
enjoying
that.
their life.
Hey, if
but-
there's any billionaires listening in, you can feel free to sponsor the show. We will talk you up if that's what you want. I don't know if you can afford us, to be perfectly
that sounds
honest.
about as insane as naming your child.
Elon, you can win my heart back, my friend.
Elon, come to our podcast.
I may
We'll
have called
talk
you a
nice
psychopath/sociopath, but you can turn this around with a little bit of money, okay?
Dude, that would be funny. That would actually be so funny.
I mean, he put a car in space. It's pretty fucking badass, not gonna lie. There's some stuff he does that's super awesome. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's end with this first question that we have in the Patreon mailbag, Cinderman, from Nivnav.
Yes.
What career would you be doing, dream job or realistic job, if Dota/esports didn't exist? And then, of course, he felt the need to say, sorry, Suns fan, you wouldn't be able to be a pro in CS. Thank you. Do you have an answer for this, or do you need me to go first?
So we're saying, based on this wording, that it's not, we can't do another esport either, right?
Right. Video games out of the picture.
No. Okay. I think dream job, I honestly don't know what would be my dream job. I just love games. So I think if my dream job would be something else that had something to do with games, not necessarily video games, but some sort of games or sports. I've always loved sports and games. So something like that. Realistic job.
Okay. You didn't say anything specific.
I
like games.
I don't know.
I want to do games.
I think my realistic job, if you will, would be probably a teacher either in high school or university. I love teaching.
That's cool.
I did for a bit as an extra thing during my English studies. I did teach grammar as an assistant teacher, which I found very enjoyable. Most people hate grammar. I think it's really fascinating.
You've taught me
the
so many things about the English language, Cinder. Thank you.
Analytical stuff has always been my thing. I just love analysis of all sorts of shit. Language, video games, behavior, whatever it is. It's interesting to me to analyze things. So something with that, like teaching something that's analysis heavy would probably be my realistic job. So a language or grammar or something like that, I think. Dream job, honestly don't know. I'm just something with games. That was a vague answer.
No, it can't be video games. Dream job. Anything in the world. Literally anything. There's got to be something.
I know. You go first. I'll think.
Okay. My dream job is easy. I'd be the owner of the Phoenix Suns. Is that a job?
Yeah.
If not, then
CEO
general
job,
manager,
right?
I suppose. But there's more pressure on the general manager. Owner, you can do whatever the fuck you want. That sounds good.
Yeah, that's not technically a job, is it, right?
What, the owner? Yeah, maybe not.
Being the owner, is that a job? Is that an actual position? Or do you just have majority of the shares?
You have majority of the shares, but then you have a lot of responsibility for to the shareholders. So it is a job, but I understand what you're saying. If not, then GM,
Fine.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Realistic job would be really boring, and it would probably be what I did before I started doing esports related stuff, and that's tech support or something relating to fixing computers. I fucking hate it. I hated it so much. The only time that I enjoyed it was when I worked at ASU, and I worked in a place where people in the computing commons would walk in, students only, by the way, would walk in, and I would repair their laptops. Like they have porn or something on their laptops. And the only reason it was great is because...
You got to laugh at them?
No. ASU is known for having ridiculously hot chicks, and I can attest that this is 100% true. So you just have these ridiculously hot chicks come in. And of course, I was a student at the time working there. I'm not a creep. I don't go there anymore, guys. But
yeah.
Oh, you want to hear?
And then you were like, "Hi, I'm Shannon. I'll fix your computer."
Do you want to hear a funny story?
And then they were like, "Sorry, I'm not bi."
Yeah, I'm up for whatever. But Cinder, anytime, buddy. Do you have a dream job before I tell my quick story? It just popped in my head now that I talked about that job. And I can't remember.
I don't know. I didn't come up with anything. I'm so boring.
Cinder's my dream job would be
funny. My dream job would be to do something, to be able to do funny things. Because apparently I'm not. I can't. I just can't do things.
Great. You'd be a comedian. That sounds like you'd be
what a dream job. That sounds so fucking stressful. Although I am really funny, so I could make money with it, actually. That's true. Yeah.
You're going to have to stop me if I've told this story before, Cinderin. Okay. So I used to work in this computing commons. Students would come in for repairs, but occasionally you get a teacher, okay? Now, have you heard of the skeleton of Lucy. It's a Neanderthal, I believe, or it's not Neanderthal. It's one of the earliest human remains ever found at that time. It was the earliest. Okay, this is like hundreds of thousands of years prior, and the guy that found Lucy was this professor, and he's like in his 70s or maybe even 80s. Okay, so he came in. And he needed help with his Mac, which, of course, I don't even know how to turn on a Mac. So I had to get help from my colleague to help. So I had to kind of just stand there.
Oh, man. I can imagine you go to tech support and they don't know how to switch on the computer.
Yeah,
you just fucking lose all.
Who gives a
you
shit?
lose all hope instantly of it being fixed.
So it's this very casual area, right? And I would always eat my lunch there. I'd bring in my lunch, and then if somebody needed help, I'd just help them, and I'd go back and eat my lunch. So I had this Burger King Angus burger. I hate Burger King now because they don't have this anymore, but Angus burger was delicious, okay? Burgers and fries in the bag. So I go and I start helping this guy, and his wife is with him. She goes and sits down where I was sitting. I look over 5 minutes later as I'm helping him. She's taking fries out of the bag and eating them. And I'm like doing a double take. I'm like, what the fuck? What is she doing? So I fix the guy's problem, and they both leave. And I start telling the story, like, to everybody, like, what would you have done in this situation? Like, she's eating my fries. He's like, oh, I think she's just really old. She's probably just senile, whatever, the case may be. So I don't think of it again, okay? 2 days later, the guy comes in with the same problem. It's actually the exact same situation. I have my burger and fries out there. And I'm helping him with his problem. I look over, and she's taking a bite out of my burger now. And I'm like, I literally can't believe what I'm seeing. I don't know what to do. You know me, I can be aggressive at times. I have no idea. This is a faculty member and his senile fucking wife, and she's eating my delicious Angus burger. So they both leave, and I throw it away, and I go buy another burger. What would you have done in this situation, Sindren? I froze. It was so weird. She's getting burger juice all over her face while I'm fixing her her husband's computer, attempting to fix her god-awful Mac. What would you do here?
I genuinely, the first thing that comes to mind, I would genuinely just ask, what are you doing? Like, because you can't make sense of the situation, right? So maybe they can tell you what's going on. Like, it's also kind of a neutral way of saying it's a more, how to say, it's a nicer way of saying, would you please fucking stop what you're doing? It's really, really, really not okay. Like, just being like, what are you doing is kind of you kind of put the burden on them to explain themselves, like why that is okay or makes sense or anything. I don't know what else to do. She thought it was
a community burger that everybody could eat, and it was part of the service of fixing the computer, or she was just actually senile, which is definitely the case, I think. So yeah, that's my story.
Right, but then if you ask, what are you doing, then the husband could explain it, right?
What'd you say? I can't hear you. Yeah, I don't know.
I think, I don't know, that's just what I would do. I know other people would just be angry with the person right away, like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop eating my food, right?
Well,
but like,
again,
but you're kind of in shock, right? It's so weird.
Not only are you in shock, but it's not only a faculty member, it's literally a famous faculty member. The guy is known for discovering Lucy. And this is his deranged wife eating my fucking burger. Okay? Like,
sorry.
There's a lot of levels to this.
I just have to laugh at Inestrix's comment in chat right now.
Which is?
Sin's dream job would be to be that senile woman. Oh my god. Not having a care for anything and just walking around eating people's food and getting paid for it actually pretty fucking good. Not gonna lie. That's pretty good.
Dude, that Angus burger was fucking good though. I can't blame her at the end of the day.
Which one? The first or the second one?
Well, she only ate my fries the first time. So
yeah, that's
okay. So that is today's episode of We Say Things. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Sindren, have you seen In Bruges?
She literally got away with the fries, and she was like, "I can do better next time."
She's
she
just
would come back the third time. She would just go next to you. You would have a soda, and she would just take it out of your hand and start drinking it. That would be the ultimate power play.
At that point, I would have
so stupid.
I would have protected the food. I think the third time.
God,
I was not prepared. But yes, In Bruges. Sorry.
Fuck, man. just picturing this situation. It's so absurd. It's like out of a sitcom, you know?
It literally is.
Ugh. No, I have not watched In Bruges. Sorry.
Great. Thank you so much for brightening my day again. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next week, Suns fan Cinder and signing out. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Eat your own food.
We say things that don't mean anything, but thanks for listening. Yeah.